Father Divine's words from the notebook of John Lamb. Conclusion. Father Divine's message given at 229 West 135th Street, New York City, Friday, September 9th, 1932, ADFT. Time, morning. During the breakfast banquet service, a visitor testified that she had nothing and wanted nothing but Father's mind, and asked him to bless her with more of it. Then she asked Father to bless her home. Father responded as follows: "Don't have any home, and then you will have my mind." You see, when you give yourself to God, don't even have any eyes or hands or feet. It was said in the kingdom many years ago, what I said about 15 or 17 years ago, and many of the angels caught the spirit of it, and they stopped saying their hands, their feet, or anything like that. Because if you give yourself to God, and then go back and claim them, member by member, you will take your whole self back from God, and that will come to pass. Eventually the time will come when you will not lay claim on the hair of your head. You will say the hair instead of saying my hair. You will say the feet instead of saying my feet. You will make it plain that you will not lay personal or individual claims on anything. And you will not let your mind encumber you with attachment to the body, you see. For attachment to the body is detachment from the glory, and detachment from the body is attachment to the glory. That is just a little thought as a conveyance of what one must do to receive and maintain the infinite blessings of God. Now that does not say that I want you or anyone else to give me anything, as a thought has been conveyed by some that claim to be followers of mine, some that have been out to Sayville, commonly known as the Kingdom, and stayed and were fed and housed for many months, and coming to me, one did, claiming that they had money and they wanted to utilize the money for my cause. I told them the only way that they could do it would be to buy that piece of property, or one of the pieces of property there in Sayville. Or if they wanted me to take anything from them, to give me a mortgage on that property, as I was planning to sell, and I couldn't sell so readily without a mortgage, and I was planning to leave. Some carried out the report that they gave me some money. Now you know you didn't give me a penny. Now the very one that talked like that was the very one, no doubt, that wouldn't want to give anybody a penny on their tintype. Now that one knows that they were lying. They have not given me a penny, and have not actually offered me a penny. But when they talk along that line, pretending to say that they gave me money, I said, now if you all, since this movement is started and I want to sell, I will sell you this piece of property, or I will give you a mortgage on this piece of property, or something like that. It is wonderful. So you see, that's the way the mortal mind always wants to carry something. And they know positively well that the mortal mind that talks like that is the very one that wants you to carry them. And that's why I don't take collections of any kind, or foolishness like that. That's why anyone, if they want to do anything for me, I always have heretofore, and even now I always have arranged it. I say, if you want to do something, I have property here, and the only way I could accept anything would be on that. I finance all of my kingdom and my affairs, and that is the only way that I could accept of it. And then, when I said that and said, you can buy this if you want to, then they claimed that what they had was in litigation, and they could not get it out, and then carried out the report as if they gave me something to finance my movement, or pay on the establishment that I started to buy up the Hudson, when they have never given me 1 penny. Now, candidly and frankly, I can say that. Not even apparently gave me anything, because you cannot give God anything anyway. Everything you own belongs to God, and God will have it when He gets ready anyway. But you have not, even humanly, mortal-mindedly, given me a penny. The very one that said that haven't even apparently done it, and they talk about representing truth, representing lies. It is wonderful. And that's why, if they lose anything, that's why they lose it, because it was a deceitful heart in it. Better allow the thieves to break through and steal of your own mind. Nobody can steal anything from me. I leave my cars out in the street all the time, and if they need to go, let them go. Nobody can steal anything from me, and if anybody steals anything, it is not stolen from me. There is nothing lost in this great universal mind substance. If anyone can take anything from you, it is because you have taken advantage of somebody, or you have some dishonesty, and have not laid up treasures in heaven where moths and rust do not corrupt, and where thieves do not break through and steal. So I say that, so you can know, and you can tell your fellow brothers and your fellow sisters that someone that talks a lot, that is someone that wants something for nothing, and instead of trying to give anything, is trying to get something for nothing. It is wonderful. And that's why people lose things and all such as that, because they are dishonest in their feelings and in their works and in their ways. If anyone knows God, they know they can give God nothing. But when you come down, even humanly speaking, materially, I don't even bear record of the party changing a dime for me to call up over the telephone in a public phone booth. It is wonderful. So I said that to throw you off of that course, and you had better stop carrying out those reports, for if you don't, I will have to make it known to the tens of thousands that I speak to. It is wonderful. Tell the truth. Even if you thought you were doing something. If you thought you were doing something. And even apparently were doing something. Why, it would look more real if you apparently were doing something. It is wonderful. But I said that to let you see and know just the way the mortal mind goes. And that's why any of my real children, if you are of my spirit and my mind, you don't want anything from any mortal mind anyhow. You want to live an absolutely independent life. It is wonderful. I don't ask any favors or any affection or any petty presents or anything of that kind, or any grand presents or grand prizes. God says, give me your heart. And if I cannot get your heart, I don't want anything about you. It is wonderful. Those thoughts are well worth considering as people try to degrade or low-rate the standard of this truth by trying to convey some thought that they have done something of their little insignificant selves, tied up in bondage and slavery. It is wonderful. And always coming and standing around in the meetings and places, and they know they are not wholehearted in the way of those that would be willing to exercise their gifts and talents. Not even a song sung, not even a testimony or anything. It is wonderful, it is wonderful. I say that because I get tired of the mortal mind trying to convey some thought as if though it has done something. And I want you to know it distinctly and know it plainly that they haven't done anything like unto that, not even an appearance of it. And when I say an appearance of it, your thought may go, well, Father says everything belongs to God anyway, and nobody can give him anything. But you have not apparently done anything in any shape, form, or fashion, humanly speaking, mortally speaking, or any way. They talked about they had money and they wanted to help me. They had been out there so long and all like that, and they wanted to help me and so on. And I said, I am after selling this place and getting a mortgage on it. And that's the only way I could use your money, because the property stands for the money, you see, and that is not taking anything from you. It is immaterial to me. And so far as that was concerned, I did sell the place. It is wonderful. But it wasn't anybody giving me any money. When they got the place, they were getting their money's worth, unless I would have sold it for more than it was worth. But that was for them to find out. Now, I am sometimes apparently meek and lowly, and then sometimes I may be apparently stern, and so on like that. But if you do right, you will find that love is always reflected, and not only reflected, but produced and reproduced and increased and multiplied for you. But if you try to give flesh some honor and try to rob God of the infinite love and majesty and power he has for his people, why, I will have to pull the cover off you. It is wonderful. That's the reason I have heretofore, up until here recently, not even allowed anyone to sweep a rug, to sweep and beat a rug on the line, unless I paid them for it. Those that were staying in the home, some stayed there for months, and some stayed there for years. Now, one that is there now can verify that statement of his own experience. He used to go out there before he was employed in the kingdom for several years. He used to go out there every summer and stay in the summer. And his laundry, his meals, and everything was fixed. And he would go out and do work at his regular occupation, making $5 or $6 a day. And he didn't have to get a newspaper. Newspapers were bought and placed there in the home that he could read. His hair was trimmed and everything, and even sandwiches for his lunch, and didn't charge for anything, didn't ask for anything, not a penny. Some of them didn't give even the waitresses and the cooks a pocket handkerchief, and their meals were fixed every day, and they had a chance to save $400 or $500 in the season. And Mr. Lindsay was one in the number, but he was one. There were 10 cleansed, but where are the 9? Of course, when he came back the last time, he wouldn't go anywhere. but he asked for a position in the home and took a position in the home. And I paid him, and paid him just what he charges. It is wonderful. And no man can refute that or can dispute it. It is wonderful. It is wonderful. And that is the way I have been doing. But of course here now that the kingdom as it has extended, there are many times, the same as here, some of you all that are connected with the body will come in and serve the table and all such as that. I haven't heretofore allowed them even to serve the table, and any of them that were in the home get their laundry and everything else absolutely free. If they served the table when I needed some extra help, I would pay them for it. That's the way I used to do. But since I have been here, I haven't done all of that because this, as I say, is Mr. Calloway's home. And the different homes where I am, they are mine. But since they were having charge, were superintending, and have charge over them, they let someone come in and voluntarily serve, like Tree and the different angels that were not employed and not serving in the home. They were glad to come in and do it, and also Mr. Daniels here and the different ones. But you see, I would rather spend $1,000 a day just for the home than to have any mortal mind going around talking about demonstration from the listeners. It is wonderful. Because anyway, the word plainly says, when you do your alms, and if you did do something and can do something for the poor, when you go around and sound your trumpet, you have your reward. That's all you are going to get. You don't get any reward, even if you do something, and let anybody else know it but yourself and God. It is wonderful. That's why if anyone gives me an apple or an orange and wants someone else to know it, I don't want it. And if I give you an apple or an orange, I don't want you to be telling all of the other angels about it. If it is known, let it be known spiritually and collectively, and not as an individual. God is of no private interpretation. God blesses everybody. And so it is with those books. If anybody gets the book wonderful, and you holler and tell everybody about it, I don't appreciate that, because when you do your alms, do not sound a trumpet. If someone else does it, why, they should rejoice in a way of speaking. But that's why I have always tried to avoid publicity, because publicity in the mortal consciousness is for the exaltation of the so-called giver, and it is not for God universally. It is to give praise and thanks and give honor to that individual person that has given it. It is wonderful. But when anybody gives you a toothpick, if they did give you a toothpick and tell it, or if I were a natural man living in mortal consciousness and had mortal appetites, such as smoking, and I met a man on the street and he gave me a light from his cigar, and he had to go around and tell it, I wouldn't appreciate it. It is wonderful. So if I were a mortal man and was taking collections and so on like that, and if Mr. Rockefeller would give me $500,000 or $500 million, or if Mr. Ford gave me $500 million and then told anybody about it, I would go and throw it in his face, because that is all he would get out of it, just the praise of men. The word says, when you do your alms, do not sound a trumpet, but hide your hand. Just to the reverse, so many will throw a stone at you and hide their hand. Well then, if you give a blessing and you are real, you will hide your hand and will not want anybody to know it. It is wonderful. I have always believed in the expression of the consideration of the child at Christmas time, not believing in actually falsifying the word as other parents do, saying that Santa Claus is coming down the chimney someplace, but I do believe that whatsoever you receive, if you receive it as a surprise, and nobody know it but yourself and God. And whatsoever you do, if you do it for Christ's sake, then it is done in secret. And he that seeth in secret shall reward you openly. It is wonderful. Everyone that goes around and tries to make pretend that they have done something when they have not, then they are trying to rob God of the honor and such as that. The same as people go around and say they do things gratis, and then turn around and in a way of chicanery try to charge more than anybody else. Then they are robbing God and robbing the people of the confidence they had in God, and robbing God of the virtue of the work that is being done. It is wonderful. It is wonderful. And that's why I say so often, I came treading the winepress all alone. I would rather throw off every mortal version of every human imagination and every human expression, rather than be entangled in the bondage of those kinds of yokes of beliefs and opinions as they had entangled you. So then I say, when you do your alms, do not sound a trumpet. If you expect to get any reward from God, you don't want anybody else to know it but yourself and God. Just like someone said one time, someone wanted to give me a surprise. It would be that way rather than trying to advertise it. If you could keep it from God, you wouldn't let even God know it. You would do every blessed thing you could that would be pleasing to God, and would not let him know that you did it, because you would not want any personal honor, personal praise, or personal consideration at all for that which you did through the Spirit of love. It is wonderful. But that's the destination of your blessing and your existence, when you try to get personal consideration or personal praise or personal respect. That is your reward. That's all the blessing you are going to get for anything you do or have done. If you want anyone to know that you are devout, you are faithful, and trying to act or look sanctimonious, and trying to do something for God or for man. And as soon as you let someone think that on your account, while you're trying to make them think it, that's all the reward you will get, just what they give out, and no more. That's all the help, all the blessing you are going to get, just what they can pay you. You are not going to get any from God. It is wonderful. The real thing, the real child, the real faithful one said, when you pray, enter into your secret closet and pray to him in secret. And he that seeth in secret, he himself shall reward you openly. When you do your alms, do not sound a trumpet that you may be seen and heard of men. When you fast, do not appear unto men to fast. Go right along just like you are not fasting from drunkenness, from debauchery, that you are not fasting from anything. and try not to appear unto men to be fasting from those conditions and those things. But let God know in your heart and in the invisible that you are fasting and that you are a true faster. Anoint your head with oil and just appear not to be fasting, and yet be fasting all the time. Then and there and here and now you are living in mental seclusion. You are secluded from the mortal versions of the human mind and not exposed to them. And yet you are manifesting yourself and manifested in the midst of them, and you cannot be distinguished from he or him, whosoever it may be. After having a secretary read the current article in the New York News concerning his teachings, Father, while the service of the breakfast went on, elucidated a point that had been misquoted in the paper of the report. It was concerning God having come out of our imaginations into our realizations. Father said, "You had an idea that God was in your imagination. That is the way the paper has it. But it is not that you had an idea that God was in your imagination. You had an idea in your imagination that God was somewhere in the heavens, far away. But it is wonderful to see that God has condescended to bring truth in the highest light of truth that has ever touched the earth, to bring it in your hand's reach, where the most insignificant person can receive the highest teachings, wherein that the poorest person can get the message of truth. Don't you see? I am bringing everything down where they can get it, and verifying that which was spoken of by the mouth of Jesus, saying that the blind receive their sight, the lepers are cleansed, the sick are healed, and the dead are raised, and the poor have the gospel preached to them." Now there are other truth teachers, supposedly truth teachers. If they would give a lecture like that, just think what it would cost the general public. And anyone can get that just for buying the paper for a nickel. It is wonderful. Yet it is not that I am charging anything for it. My service is absolutely free. But this paper happens to take my message. And by taking my message and being in harmony with me, we buy the paper. And as long as it does carry it, why, we endorse the paper. And those that will not carry the message of truth and endorse the truth, neither will we endorse them in their folly. It is wonderful. We endorse anything in the educational world, the social world, the financial world, that will advocate the truth and emphasize the truth, even as is our duty to do. Those that will do that, we will see that they will be the head and not the tail. It is wonderful. That is the influence of the Spirit, and the Spirit has influence over the minds of men. For this cause, to subjugate humanity to that which is right, and to hold them in check that they might do that which is right, to preach and advocate the truth rather than advocating error. It is wonderful. So as I say, especially this paper, why, I have some copies myself, and we are keeping some copies for future reference. And as one of my secretaries was telling me the other day, she said, "Father, it looks as though you like to hear your own sermon as well as we do, after it is written." I do like to hear the truth, wheresoever it is said or done. But if anyone else, whether it would be me or anyone else or anyone connected with me, It makes no difference when they convey the real truth. I have had students heretofore that I would rather hear speak than myself, because they could convey the truth so vividly and so enthusiastically. I would rather hear them than hear myself. And I would just rather hear anybody that can do anything better than me. I would rather hear them do it. It is wonderful. And this is so sweet. And hence this truth will rule the whole world. It is not confined to persons. We are not advocating that. You all understand that I'm not talking about it will be me as a person, humanly speaking, rule the world, sitting up on some material throne. You all understand the principle that is back of all of it. It is the true principle of life, the ideal of life, of which the apostle spoke, saying, "At the name of Jesus Christ, every knee must bow and every tongue must confess." At this name, which means nature, the divine nature will take place in the consciousness as well as in the system of the children of men. And then he will rule among them. That is the great significance of this truth. And that is when we will universalize this, and all nations and all people will be under this one government. Then verify I that of which the Russellites said years ago, that the government will be a righteous government. It is wonderful, whether it be in me or in someone else. It is immaterial to me who it may be in. We know that this spirit and this life and this love and this mind shall rule, physically rule, and spiritually and mentally rule the whole universe. For he rules the world with truth and with grace, and makes the nations prove the glories of his righteousness and the wonders of his love. It is wonderful. For this cause came I into the world. It is wonderful. Now, don't you feel good? It is wonderful. Why do you feel so good? It is because there is an assurance. And there is complete assurance in this principle, which is Christ, better known in the religious world as Jesus is mine. You can say, "Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine, an heir of salvation. I am purchased of God. I am born of his Spirit and washed in his blood." It is wonderful. Now, upon this foundation, we can wear the world as an absolutely loose garment. We don't need to fret nor worry or care anything about whether something comes or something goes. We know that it will stand and withstand, for we are advocating the impersonal life and not the person. Then you know positively well that this will go forth conquering and to conquer, confident that if one or all of these physical bodies as instruments that may be instrumental in carrying the message forth to the world now would cease to function, we know that there will be others. If such a thing could be, as that they would cease to function after any violation of the law of life, we know that that would not cause a failure. Don't you see? It is wonderful. For this cause, when we are not advocating the personal life, you can be filled and thrilled with the joy that is unspeakable and full of great glory continually and at all times. It matters not where you may seem to be or what seems to come. It would be absolutely immaterial to you. At the banquet table, 20 West 115th Street, Wednesday, December 27th, 1933, 11 a.m. Several testimonies from visitors followed our previous message. after which Father spoke again as follows. Peace, everyone. Here we all are again, expressing through one the light, the love and the truth, the wisdom, the knowledge, and all of the omniscience of the world condescendingly come. Here we are, and there I am. We are switching on our mental and spiritual radios of life, and we are producing it and bringing into expression a distinct and a legible expression of every good and desirable condition, including all of God's omniscience, all of the joy and happiness and everything desirable. That is a mystery. We have radios in our present day that will catch up messages that are broadcast through the ether. If you are traveling at sea and even by air, it is equivalently the same. You can catch up messages that are sent out from the different broadcasting stations. If that can be done mechanically, by God inspiring man through science to invent such inventions, how much more can God do himself with all of his omniscience? Then I say, here you are, and there I am, and here we are, all of the nations of the earth combined, the reality of the life substance, the mentality, and the true spirituality of them. But these qualities and characteristics and attributes are brought into subjection to the insignificance of that principle that was called the person, Jesus. The reproduction and recognition of the same identical principle I am expressing for your consideration. It is indeed wonderful. There are many things I could say along this line, but as it appears to be in time, and time apparently is limited at this particular juncture, as there are others desiring to eat, I am quite sure I will cease to speak so much in person, but I will speak more so in deeds and in actions. I will continue to put my spirit in the people collectively, and through so doing I will bring them into subjection, and they collectively, as well as you individually, will walk in my statutes joyfully. At this particular juncture, I call your attention to the third and fourth last speakers for consideration, as there has been an issue put forth into expression that was in the defense of me, but it was supposed to have been in opposition. When you hear the people say they surrender all to me, take these thoughts into consideration. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. They are not surrendering all to me. Take these thoughts into consideration. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. They are not surrendering all to me, nor giving me personally such things as they have, personal or real property. I do not personally know anything about it, humanly speaking, although all things are under my jurisdiction from a mental and spiritual point of view. Even things that are my own, humanly speaking, I would not allow them to be mine individually. I have money, and money aplenty, but I will not even allow it to be legally mine, humanly speaking. It is indeed wonderful. I have a full and a plenty of personal and real property, but I will not allow it to be personally and individually mine, humanly speaking. For I am not seeking material things, after the mortal version of men, to acquire so much as a person, and bring it under my personal jurisdiction. Therefore I am saying this for the good of the people. The prejudicial seed that has been handed down through the malicious representations or records that have gone to the courts through and by the investigating committees, these prejudicial and malicious reports have been given through and by just such testimonies as the last speakers gave. Now, when they testify and say they give me all, they even give me their lives. There are more than 10 million claiming they give me their lives. But their lives all belong to God from the beginning, and all of their inheritance and possessions belong to God. It is indeed wonderful. And when they say they give me all they have, the mortal mind records it as though they are giving it to me personally. Now, if there is a person wishes to have a cold $1,000 real easily, bring to me the person that can really prove to me and verify in reality by others that they have given me their insurance money, or given me any of their insurance money and made it known to me. Take these thoughts into consideration. There are those that are prejudiced and jealous, and they will come into our assemblies at times. They are seeking high, exalted places according to the mortal version of the human mind. And when God does not exalt them and appease their mortal human fancies and pleasures, they will go out at times and try to pervert the truth into a lie. And the inspectors or investigators, whichever, they come around and hear the different individuals testifying they surrender all to me. And they take that down as a fact, that they have given it to me personally. And therefore they are partaking of the germs of degradation that will bring to them the same condition that was brought to Judge Smith and to others. It is indeed wonderful. In Adam all die. In the reports of the courts you all are dying. Did you hear what I said? I said in the reports of the courts, to that prejudicial report that has been reversed by the appellate division of the Supreme Court of the state of New York, you all will die. It is indeed wonderful. It is indeed wonderful. The conviction in Mineola, according to the mortal versions of men, it was termed a conviction. It was brought out through and by maliciousness and prejudice and comments that were made by the court, who did not have real records on these statements, he said. And that is why he is now dead. The investigating committee in Newark, it was a repetition or reproduction of that same proceeding that went on in Mineola. They sent for and took the reports of what had been recorded in the Mineola court, and they had representative witnesses over there from Sayville and other connections to bear false accusation against the truth. For this cause they took the reports of the proceedings in Mineola, and also the decision and the findings according to the record of the court. They reproduced it and put it forth as real. But remember, this proceeding in Mineola was reversed by the appellate division of the Supreme Court of New York, and it was declared to have been sponsored by prejudice in some 30-odd folios, and by comments that were made by the court, which it was a violation of the law to make. Take these thoughts into consideration. That decision was reversed, but they tried to bring that in undercover and reenact it in Jersey. Now I say, in Adam all die. In Judge Smith's decision, all die. In the records and findings of such decision which was declared by the Appellate Division of the Supreme Court of New York to be prejudiced, they all die. Take these thoughts into consideration. You, as well as I, will come to this recognition and this realization. God in reality is living now, henceforth, and forever, and has the victory over all adversities, although there must be a negative. The positive is real, but remember, the negative must come forth. But the negative is not true, and therefore it cannot stand. It is indeed wonderful. Mankind regrets. They hate very much because I have established the kingdom of God on earth among men. They have sought in every way imaginable to refute it or dispute it from some point of view. But I am declaring unto you it is a matter of impossibility. And every time a person or persons try to endorse or cooperate or agree with that decision that was given in the Mineola court, they are subject to death. In that decision and in that conviction, it was verified by the Appellate Division of the Supreme Court of New York that it was prejudiced, expressed in the way of comment, that it was a violation of the law for the court to make, and in the way of rulings also in some 32 or 33 folios, which were not legal. Under such proceedings, they all die. They may not die immediately, but they are bringing themselves into subjection to that same curse that fell upon Judge Smith as a person. It is indeed wonderful. Now, as I have foresaid, when you hear the different individuals testifying to me that they are surrendering everything, at times they may say houses and lands and everything. That is what you testify in your churches. From your earliest existence you surrendered all to God. It is indeed wonderful. But you know positively well you did not go up into the imaginary heaven and bring God down to come to your possession and take your material and legal inheritance. Therefore, I say to the people of America and to all of the other countries combined, the work of the court and the investigation, it has been a great expression that will lead you to God in heaven, or will lead you to perdition. Now it is according to your decision. It is true that the judge did say he would leave it with the people. Now I am leaving it with the people, and I am leaving it with him, and I am leaving it with others to believe me or doubt me if they will. I am not beseeching you to believe me, and I am not beseeching you nor begging you not to doubt me. But I have set before you a blessing and a cursing in this particular issue. It is for you to believe it and receive your blessing, believing the message that I am giving, or doubt it, disbelieve it, and receive a cursing. It is indeed wonderful. I will not do one thing or the other. I will not bless you, and I will not curse you. But I set before you a standard of expression that will bring for you a blessing or a cursing. He that believeth, said the Christ in the person of Jesus, shall be saved. But he that believeth not shall be D-M-N-E-D. Truly might Judge Smith have said to one of the witnesses for the defense, if he can make you well, he can make you sick then, can't he? He said, it works both ways, doesn't it? Well, it is true. I did not personally give this person to whom he was speaking life. But this person, this witness, received life and health through believing in me. And he received sickness and death through disbelieving me. I didn't do a thing to either one of them. It is indeed wonderful. Your faith brings you a blessing. Your unbelief will bring you a cursing. Therefore, I will leave it with the people, the leaders, and even the courts, and all of the people collectively, to let them accept me or reject me, and they will be blessed or will be cursed. I will leave it with them to believe me or disbelieve me, and if they believe me, they will be blessed, the same as you and millions of others. I do not have to do a thing, and I am not going to try to do a thing. I am leaving the decisions and conditions of the verdicts with the people for their consideration collectively. Each and every individual can be blessed or cursed, and I will not do either to any of you. I am not blessing you, and I am not cursing you. Your faith in me as though it is me has blessed you. Your unbelief in me as though it is me has cursed you. I did not do a thing either way. So it is immaterial to me which you choose. I set before you a blessing and a cursing. You can choose either life or death. But in the accusations and condemnations of the people you will find death. While in the faith and the belief and confidence in Christ as being termed Jesus, whom you say I am, you will find life and health and happiness. It is indeed wonderful. But remember, when you hear one testify, I have surrendered all to Father, know within yourselves, so far as yet, they are not giving me anything personally, although the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. And after a while, I will legally take charge as the great controlling power of the earth. To whom it may concern. Released from 20 West 115th Street, New York City, New York. To whom it may concern, or may be interested in any way whatsoever in the work and activities of mine, spiritually, legally, socially, and financially, and otherwise, I wish to advise the general public in reference to the legal proceedings and investigation that has been going on in the state of New Jersey, Essex County, Newark, by the Common Pleas Judge through the investigating committee sent out from his honor. This statement is for the sake of the public at large, to warn them against malicious and prejudicial reports and investigations, for such is but a repetition or reproduction of the court proceedings and investigation and reports and records given by the finding of a verdict in Mineola of 1932. These false accusers did not even appear in court, and did not even write themselves, but sent reports, the majority of them. The finding of the verdict and the passing of the sentence in Mineola of 1932 was declared by the Supreme Court judge of our state to have been absolutely prejudicial, and the reports having been given were through and by prejudice and malicious people who held grudges against the defendant. I am giving this statement to forewarn the public and those who may be concerned that these reports are unfounded, the most of them, especially in reference to any person or persons selling their insurance policies or turning them in and giving the refunds to me, and also the fictitious name they have given to me. There is $1,000 reward for any person who can truthfully and prooffully say and bring to me this proof: I accept of no donations, contributions, or love offerings, or any such, that is, if it is known to have come from any person, although in reference to those who are termed to be ignorant, humanly speaking, the majority of them openly say they give me their lives, not only their personal or real properties. The 10 million followers of mine and believers, having given me their lives and all they have possessed, does not mean that they gave it to me as a person. Neither have these things come under my personal jurisdiction. When they say they have given me anything, or all they have, they are not speaking of giving me anything personally, for they can tell the world at large, I do not need it as a person. Now then, in reference to the proceedings and the reports and the findings, according to the repetition or reproduction of the Mineola trial, and reports both of the court proceedings, records and convictions were reproduced by the court sending for the records of the assistant district attorneys and their representatives from Suffolk County, of which had the court records and reports of the trial in Mineola, Nassau County. These reports, being re-recorded in this investigation in the state of New Jersey by the investigating committee, but having not brought to light the decision of the Appellate Division of the Supreme Court of New York, of which counterfeits all or the better part of the proceedings and conviction in Mineola, Nassau County of 1932. The Appellate Division of the Supreme Court's decision in reversing the conviction is given as follows, of which you can plainly see it was a contradiction of all of the proceedings and the reports herein mentioned. Quote, People of the State of New York against Major Devine. Appellate Division of the Supreme Court, New York. Decision handed down on January 3rd, 1933, reversing Father Devine's conviction and granting a new trial in the following language. Judgment of convicting reversed on the law and a new trial granted. In our opinion, the court's ruling at folios 487 through 490, 492 through 496, 648 through 650, 891 through 896, 947 through 949, 572 through 576, 651 through 656, 788 through 790, 666 through 667, 669 through 670, 86 through 89, 131 through 132, 133 through 135, 168 through 172, 243, 660 through 661, 683 through 684, 690 through 693 were erroneous and prejudicial, and we think that prejudice against the defendant was excited in the minds of the jurors by comment, rulings, and questions by the court throughout the trial, and that the court went beyond reasonable and proper limits in the cross-examination of defendant's witnesses. We have examined the record and find no error as to the facts. Lasansky, P.J. Young, Carswell, Scudder, and Tompkins, J.J., concur. End quote. This is plain to see and understand that a repetition of the same proceedings were false and prejudicial, according to the decision as stated above. Those of the public who may be interested can take these thoughts and these proceedings and this decision for consideration as the decision of the Appellate Division of the Supreme Court of the State of New York has given against the same. This has been repetitioned or reproduced in this last proceedings in the State of Jersey. Signed, Reverend M.J. Devine. I thank you, Father,